Hello, hello, everyone. I am so excited to be chatting with you today for this week's money chat. We are going to be talking about making investments in an aligned way and, understanding what to do if we've started to make unaligned investments and kind of how to go about navigating that and handling that. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Eleanor Prisco, and you are joining me here for our weekly money chat. I'm so excited to be talking with you. And let me know in the comments if you have made an investment that was out of alignment for you. I think that it's way more common than most of us think of having made an investment that was out of alignment. I think that a lot of times people always want to highlight their investments. They are constantly like, oh my gosh, like this was such a good investment. I had such a good investment in my coaches, in different platforms or services or whatever it might be, right? We don't necessarily want to publicize when we've made an out of alignment investment and it was from a place that we were really surrendering our agency or surrendering our authority, and like it led to a lot of like sticky behaviors potentially. And that's a kind of one of the downsides, right, of like the going back to what I spoke about last week of like, when we don't have spaces of community to talk about our money and talk about how we're investing or what's going on with our money, right? Because we want to hide our financial mistakes. We don't want to bring them out in the open. We don't want to talk about them. We don't want to share them with everyone. It's something that we feel we need to hide away because it's something that's shameful. And so let's talk about out of alignment investing. So I want to just like preface that out of alignment investing is so common for folks, right? It's something that happens, I feel like, to many of us, especially like when we first get into the space of wanting to improve ourselves or make things better for ourselves, or just that like kind of self-improvement space of mindset and maybe starting your own business. It's also very common to kind of make an investment in an out of alignment coach and kind of discover, and like in that investment, I know for myself, with one of the first business coaches I invested in, I kind of like surrendered all agency. I just like listened to everything that she had to say. I was like, okay, she's the expert. I kind of have no knowledge here. And I really surrendered my agency. And I invested in something that was like way outside of what I could afford. And that experience felt really, really sticky for me. It was something that I carried a lot of shame and guilt about for a long time, right? I felt shameful that like I had invested in something that was out of alignment. I felt guilty that I didn't like necessarily figure things out as quickly as I should in the coaching industry or with my own business. And I think a really important thing to highlight is that in that coaching experience, because I surrendered my agency, right? Because I was unable to stay grounded in myself and my own intention and the service that I wanted to provide, which was financial empowerment and talking about money and talking about new systems and strategies on how to manage money, and doing that through a lens of money and mindset, and strategy and mindset. It kind of led me to, believe that I couldn't talk about this topic that was deemed boring, quote unquote. And so that led me to like kind of not be clear on my messaging, not be clear on what I really wanted to talk about on social media. And so that again, though, was because I entered into a space completely, being like, oh, okay, like I have no expertise on this. And like, I need to, I just don't need to think about what my own preferences might be here. And so let's talk about when, like, let's say that you actually have, like, what did I learn from that experience? What information did I gain, right? Well, I really started to learn actually how to invest from a place of alignment. And the questions that I'm going to share with you are the questions that I now go through myself when I decide to invest in a program, and the ones that I tell my clients to ask themselves, right? So when you're looking at an investment, right, and you're looking at something that maybe you've been following the person for a while, maybe they've just like come out of nowhere and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the solution to all my problems, right? The place I want to invite you into to create greater discernment when making an investment is asking yourself, okay, what problems do I think this program or coach is going to help me solve? Right? Like when you look at your business or your financial picture, right? Because it could be maybe you're looking at like a financial advisor, right? Or maybe you're looking at engaging with someone to help you manage your finances or learn new strategies or skills, right? Maybe you're considering Feminine Finance Academy. Maybe you're considering a business coach. When you're looking at their offer or themselves, right? When you're looking at their content or the offer that you're considering, I want you to ask yourself, okay, what do I feel this coach is going to provide for me? What am I going to gain from this experience, right? Now, this doesn't have to be a direct ROI, right? Like we don't need to see a return on investment. What I'm saying is like, is there something within their marketing, within their coaching, within the skills that they're going to teach that is going to help you show up differently, that is going to improve your life, right? And are they the one to do that, right? So that's the second question, is like, after you've been reflective of like, oh, this is what I feel that they're going to help me do, like, are they the ones to do that, right? Because when you get clear actually on the challenge that you're facing and the problem you're looking to solve, right? And you're like, oh, this is what I want to shift. This is what I want to be different. And it's like, is their content, is their work directly related to that, right? So it's really about zoning in and like really deciding to think about what it is that you're facing that feels so challenging. And that's like a very important distinction I want to make, because a lot of times you can just look at a coach and you can be like, I want what they have. But you have to ask yourself, okay, what are they doing to get there? And is that the strategy that I want to carry out to get there, right? You may be looking at someone who's running a 7-figure business and you may be like, oh my gosh, I want what they have. I want this 7-figure business. And you need to ask yourself, do you know how many clients they have? Do you know how often they're launching? Do you know their business structure? And I'm not saying that one coach can't teach you a different business structure than their own. However, a number of coaches will lean towards their own business structure rather than helping you hone in on what's the right one for you, right? Because they're going to come from their own experience or potentially the experience of their other clients. And this has definitely been something that's come up with clients who have worked with me, because they've been in other containers and they're like, well, I just decided to follow their business model. And I was like, right, but was that the best business model for you and your life and like your money and like your energy levels? And it wasn't, right? So it can look really different, I think, for each person, and to like ask these discerning questions and be willing to have a conversation with someone before joining their program of like, oh, okay, like if this program is purely about marketing and you want to learn about marketing, then that makes total sense. But then also look at, what does their marketing look like, right? Is their marketing doing Facebook advertising? And like, do you not want to spend any money on Facebook ads, right? So taking a marketing course that's based on Facebook ads will not be a good fit for you, even if they are getting a different result than potentially what you're looking for. So like, examine the content, right, that you would gain in these spaces with these coaches. I know that was something that I definitely didn't do, but like truly look at the content of the program or container that you're going to enter into and assess like, oh, is this going to solve the problem that I'm facing, right? And the next thing to ask, of course, is also, this is coming a little bit more back to discernment again, is, if I didn't make this investment, would I get the same result that I'm desiring to achieve, right? Because there's a problem or a challenge that you're needing to solve. And I think that this is an important question to ask, because one of the things is that we will think that we can't get somewheres on our own, or we can't get to a result, or we can't solve a problem, or like we need to look outside of ourselves to solve something. And that might not actually be the case. Now, I want to be very clear here that like this is not an invitation for you to do it all yourself and like exhaust yourself and burn yourself out, right? I will wholeheartedly admit that I am one of those people that's like, I can figure anything out. So like I can do it on my own, right? And that can be a huge trap of our own patterning if like we are never willing to ask for help or like collapse timelines by finding people that can help us solve a problem or challenge faster, right? So I want to be really clear here in that, like, with this question, you want to ask yourself, okay, can I get there on my own? Do I need to make this investment? And then the follow-up question to that is that, like, yes, if you can do this on your own, then is this person going to help me collapse timelines? Are they going to provide me some additional information or allow me to move through what I need to move through in a faster way, right? So I think that those things are really, really important to like create a distinction around, because if you're like, no, this is completely outside my expertise and like I don't even know where to start, then like looking towards someone who has this expertise or has this knowledge and you would like to gain it, and you'd like to gain it in a more rapid way rather than, you know, self-educating yourself from all these different resources, like that's completely different than, oh, I just think that like they're going to solve this problem and I'm not going to have to do anything, or potentially like the way that they teach me how to do things is going to be like really out of alignment for myself, right? So I want to like bring that critical information in here, like when we decide to figure out like, oh, okay, like what ways are we choosing to invest, and like how can we do that in a really strategic way? Because I think that it's so common for us to be like investing outside of ourselves. And I'm seeing like obviously a lot in the coaching bubbles that I'm a part of like a lot of people just being like, oh my gosh, I'm so done with the coaching industry. You know, it's really you know, corrupt, and people are just wanting money and like things like that. And I think, you know, I definitely had some of those feelings when I made my first out of alignment investment. And I really needed to go through the work of like being like, oh, these investments were maybe not the right ones for me to make. And when I took that time to reflect on, you know, what drove me to make those investments and be able to like reflect on those aspects of myself, I was able to meet myself with a greater level of compassion and love and understanding than previously, where like I was angry at myself and I felt a lot of shame because it was like, oh, you invested and like these people are successful, so therefore you should have become successful, and like you didn't, so therefore you're broken, right? Like something's wrong with you. And so that led to like me having like a period of time where I really felt like something was wrong with me and like I was broken. And so I would prefer for as many people as possible to avoid that experience by inviting you into like reflecting on like what led you to invest with these people that have led you to dislike the coaching industry, and like were they aligned investments for yourself, and what were you searching for, right? Because I definitely know that I looked outside of myself and I did not necessarily, and then on top of that, in that space and container, I gave away my agency and was unable to stay grounded in what was right for me and what I wanted to create and build, right? Like I kind of just was like, oh, okay, like they're saying this is the way I have to do it. And like, so like, this is the way I have to do it. But that wasn't the case, right? Because like, if we actually listen to our intuition and we are able to hone that skill and practice discernment, we can be able then, even in those containers with a coach that's saying, oh, I think you should do this, or like, what if you did things this way? You can be able to say, no, that still doesn't feel right for me, or no, that doesn't feel right for me. I am going to pursue it this way. And it's okay to do that, right? I think that when we enter into spaces that allow for that safety to say no to their strategy or their recommendation, it's super, super important. and like making sure that like you're allowed to say no in those spaces, which is like, of course, hard to like assess from someone's marketing or, you know, how they're showing up or if you've been in their containers. But I think that, you know, it being okay to say no is a really important step and factor in the containers that you choose to be a part of, right? So to quickly recap, right? I think that it's so important for us to like think about and digest and like consider, okay, like what containers am I investing in and where is this drive for the investment coming from, right? Like, am I getting swept up by them just having really incredible marketing and making sure to be on every single part of my social media? Like, if you decided to unfollow that person for a week, would you still be thinking about the program? Right? Like, they could just have incredible marketing skills. But like, are you still going to be thinking about the program, going to their sales page if you unfollow them from social media for a week, right? So that's like number one, right? Number two, I think, is like asking yourself, okay, what challenge or problem am I looking for this to solve, right? And like, and then are they the ones to help me solve that? Right? Because we don't, as I said, like we don't want to, if we discover our actual challenge is the financial stability of our business and like having systems in place to have our business finances managed and like be sustainable through like any flux of the industry, which is what I teach in Feminine Finance Academy. Investing in someone who's going to show you how to like break into Facebook ads to increase your revenue is not going to solve the root problem of like not engaging with your business finances or having sustainable systems in place to, you know, flex up and down sustainably in your business, right? Working with someone of being like, oh, I found out that I'm not paying myself. Well, then you don't have financial structures in place to pay yourself. Working with someone who's just going to help you get more sales might not be the solution because it's like, oh, well, if you're not paying yourself now and you're making the revenue you are you going to pay yourself when you start making more revenue? Or is it going to get spent away in all these different areas that are happening, right? So it's very, very important to ask yourself, like, what challenge am I looking to solve by making this investment? Like, what problem am I facing, right? What is it that would actually solve this challenge and problem that I'm facing? I think that's like so important to understand and like ask yourself when you're talking about creating discernment and like making an aligned investment. The next thing is like asking yourself, okay, like, what is it that can I solve this on my own? Can I do this for myself? Or is this like an expertise, outside information that I do need, right? And again, I want to be very specific, like I want to be very clear here. This is not an invitation for you not to make investments and for you to deny yourself support. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that we can fall into a trap of believing that we don't have something within ourselves when it comes to investing, and we look outside of ourselves saying like, oh, we're not good enough, we don't have this knowledge, when in fact you might have that knowledge, right? You may have that exact knowledge that you need, and it's really about cultivating that self-trust and cultivating that certainty and confidence within yourself, right? So I think that that's a very important question to ask. The next one is, you know, if I did make this investment, what would I want the outcome to be? And if I did not make this investment, what would the outcome be, right? Or what would I want the outcome to be? So I think it's super important to like ask ourselves these really important questions because I think that what we're seeing a lot in the industry right now is like a supposed like bursting of the coaching bubble. And what I have to say there is really like industries are in flux all the time, right? The best thing that you can do right now is figure out, okay, how do I need to create more stable financial structures in my business? And maybe I'll dive deep into that next week. I think that might be a good topic for next week of just like what's happening in the coaching industry, you know, kind of what bubbles are bursting, how do we actually handle this in a strategic way? And like kind of my personal take on that rather than jumping into a whole new topic. Let's just stick with like what I've shared with you about making aligned investments and like understanding that also we all make unaligned investments. I want you to know that you're not alone, that there are tons of people, many of my clients, I myself have made unaligned investments, and it happens. And the best thing that we can do from it is really like gain information from that experience of, okay, how do I want this experience to inform how I make my next investment, or, what I do moving forward when I consider the containers I want to be a part of, or also how I myself invite people into investing with me, right? Like inviting them into reading the sales page, asking me plenty of questions, really answering a number of things on your social media or in your, FAQs, being open to that like transparent conversation. So with that, I'm so happy you were able to join me for the money chat this week. I hope to see you next week. Go ahead and give the channel a follow so that you can be notified whenever these come up. So go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to see it. If you have any comments or want to share about your own investment, what question really aligned for you and like kind of made you look differently at the investments you want to make. And I'd love to read it. And with that, I will see you next week. Bye.